Hello, welcome back to A Day in the Life, or welcome if you've never been here before. I mostly talk about books, but sometimes I post some vlogs and ramble about other things in life. We have a lot of books to get through today because we are doing my A to Z recommendations for the A to Z book challenge, which I am not doing, but I know a lot of you are. And I've tried to pick mostly newer books in romance, thriller, and other categories so that regardless of what genre you like to read, hopefully you have a lot to choose from. So we're just gonna get right into it and start with the letter A. For the romance/romantasy recommendations, we're going with Any Trope But You, especially because it is winter and this is the perfect winter romance. This follows a romance author who accidentally reveals to her readers that she doesn't believe in love, so then she gets shunned and she decides to go to somewhat of a retreat in Alaska, except that it's not really a retreat, and there is a really hot, hunky... Are there lumberjacks in Alaska? I'm gonna call him a lumberjack. He works at the resort/hotel. This is marketed as enemies to lovers. I wouldn't say it's that. I would just say more so they are a small town boy, city girl vibe. Opposites attract, filled with so many romance tropes, obviously, based on the title. If I remember correctly, I gave this one 4 stars. I loved it. I ate it up. The spice was immaculate. For thriller, I'm going with The Arrangement, which should be available on Kindle Unlimited. This is a short thriller novella series. I would consider them novellas, although I think they're probably around 200 pages. Basically, it follows a couple who's agreed to open up their marriage because they're struggling with their marriage, and some surprises pop up, shall we say. This book is kind of crazy, a little bit unhinged, but it's a fast-paced read, and I think it's also a series, and I think the books following the first one also start with A. Also, I'm not counting the as T. I'm starting with the second word after that because I don't think that should count. For other genres, we have 2 options. Obviously, atmosphere. This is technically also romance, but it's somewhere between romance and historical fiction. I think it's very much right in the middle. This follows Joan, who joins the NASA space program in the 80s, I believe, when they first were starting to allow women to become astronauts. And it's dual timeline, so both from back when she first joins the program and then also in the future when she's working on a mission as Capcom, which is a person that stays back and communicates directly to the people that are in space. Anyways, this will make you bawl your eyes out. You will get attached to the characters. It has wonderful found family vibes. Also, Joan's relationship with her niece is so special. I loved this book. This was a 5-star read. And if you're looking for something else that's kind of spooky but also has some romance, Aftertaste is a fantastic option. This is a debut novel. It follows a man who can speak to ghosts through food. There is an element of horror with the ghosts. I would say it's light horror, although it does get more and more horror-y by the end of the book. I hated how this ended. That's the only reason why it wasn't a 5-star read for me. This was 4.5 stars. And it also focuses on the behind the scenes of the culinary world in New York City, which is so fun, especially if you've watched The Bear and enjoyed The Bear, then I do think this would be a really good book for you to pick up. For the letter B, there is a lot. My number 1 romance rec is going to be Beach Read by Emily Henry. Obviously, this is my favorite of hers. 5-star read, top tier grumpy book boyfriend. This is a romance between 2 authors, one that writes romance novels and one that writes more serious, like lit fic novels, and they end up staying in lake houses next to each other, so they then make a bet to write a book in the other person's genre. It's like a rivals to lovers-ish situation. This book made me cry. I am honestly due for a reread. Chances are you've probably already read that one. So I do have 5 other options for you. Book Lovers by Emily Henry, also fantastic. Big Fan by Alexandra Romanoff. This is a romance novella, a celebrity normal person romance, and one of my favorite romance novellas ever. The Best Worst Thing, that was a debut romance from last year. Golden Retriever Book Boyfriend, somewhat of a second chance situation. I honestly do recommend going into it mostly blind, but this was a fantastic romance as well. Bodyguard by Catherine Center, another celebrity normal person romance, except that the woman is the bodyguard, which I loved because she was just like a badass. This is one of my favorite Catherine Center novels. And also Bride by Ali Hazelwood, if you're looking for something between a romance and a romantasy. That one is a romance between a vampire and a werewolf. It is chef's kiss. Perfect. I gave that one 5 stars. For thriller, the only one I really have is Best Offer Wins. This is not my favorite thriller, but the second half of this is extremely fast paced. And if you do listen to the audio, the whole entire book will be faster paced, in my opinion. This follows a woman who becomes obsessed with the house that she wants to buy because she's been having trouble getting a house for years. This is also a debut novel. I gave it 3.5 stars. Good, not great, but I do think it's fast paced, a good palate cleanser. And the ending of this is shocking, like truly shocking. Couple other options fictions. The Bright Years, obviously. If you haven't read this yet and you follow me, what are you doing? This was my favorite read from 2025. This is a book about generational trauma. There is a focus on alcoholism in this, so I do think that's a very relevant trigger warning. It's sad. It will make you cry, but I loved it. I think it's under 300 pages too, so a short read. Also, if you haven't read Broken Country yet, now is your time. I love that book as well. There is a love triangle / affair situation in it, so if that is a trigger for you, maybe don't read it. Maybe go with The Bright Years instead. Both books will make you cry. They're very like lit fic sad girl books, and I love them both to pieces. For the letter C, for romance, we have Conform. This is a dystopian romance, first book in a new series. I think it's supposed to be a 9-book series. This just came out last year. It's a debut novel. It does have a love triangle, but like not really. This is such a fascinating world. Basically, the hierarchy of society is depicted through like levels, and the top level, the highest tier, is actually in the clouds, which is so cool. And it reminds me of Silo, the TV show, in that sense, which is also a book series. So I do think if you like that aspect of Silo, then this could be a good one for you to pick up. This is the first book in a very long series. Like there's not that much world building. It's not super complex. I do expect it all together to end up being a very unique world, but I personally loved it. I was thoroughly sucked in. I can't wait to continue this series. Now I don't have a thriller for this category. I do have 2 other books though. The Correspondent, I just recently read this one. I loved it. Hot take though, I don't think you need to do the audio. I think that there's also benefits to reading this with your eyes because it's written through emails and letters, and there's a lot of characters, and I actually think it's easier to follow with your eyes, at least in the beginning. The second half of this, especially the end, I do think that will hit you more in your feels if you listen to it. It follows Sybil, who is an older woman, just, you know, chit-chatting with her friends through emails and letters because that's her preferred way of correspondence. And she kind of has a coming of age type of storyline in this. It's beautiful, will probably make you cry. You will be attached to so many of the characters. I really did love this one. I gave it 4.5 stars. The other option is Circe. This is a retelling of the god Circe. I think she's a god, a Greek god. If you like Greek mythology, then I think this is a really good one to pick up. It was fast paced for me, really good on audio. I'm gonna be honest, I don't really remember the plot, but I do remember really enjoying this book and it having a very heavy focus on women empowerment, which is obviously very relevant at all times, but especially in this day and age. For D, 2 romances, The Dead Romantics, a 5-star read for me last year. Another paranormal romance, go into this one fully blind. It has magical realism, obviously. There's ghosts, and I just thought it was so cozy. One of the coziest romances I've read in a while. Contrary to that, we've got Deep End by Ali Hazelwood. There will probably be a lot of Ali Hazelwood recommendations in here because she is one of my favorite romance authors, so what's a girl to do? This is between a collegiate swimmer and diver, and they enter a friends with benefits style relationship. I enjoyed it. I ate this one up. Both of these actually were 5-star reads for me. For thriller / mystery, my recommendation is Dark Matter by Blake Crouch. This is a sci-fi thriller. I would say light on the thriller, maybe more sci-fi mystery. It follows a man who basically invented something and then he ends up getting kidnapped and thrown into an alternate universe. I can't tell you anything else without spoiling it. This one is a wild ride and also kind of fun and fast-paced and pretty good audio, and it's also a TV show. And then one other rec is Demon Copperhead. This is one of my favorite literary fictions. It's long. The audiobook though is phenomenal. He does an amazing Southern Virginia accent, which I'm not around a lot. This book basically follows a young boy's life from childhood to late teen years. He has to deal with a lot of hardships and it's frustrating, but I did think it was written super well where you're never stuck on a really hard time for too long. So it's not like you're just fully depressed the whole time, but it is a little anxiety inducing, I will say. We've got some good ones for the letter E. For romance, Every Summer After by Carly Fortune. If you haven't read this yet, what are you waiting for? The vibes of this is just immaculate. And I'm not a big Friends to Lovers romance fan, and I did really like it in this one. And then if you want a shorter option, Exit Lane, which is also an A31 Stories novella. So cute. It's also Friends to Lovers-ish and also right person, wrong time. Also gives people we meet on vacation like a tiny bit. I love that book. For mystery thriller, might I recommend the Ernest Cunningham series. The first book is Everyone in My Family Has Killed Someone, and I believe every book in the series starts with the word everyone. So if you've read one of them, you can read the next one. There's gonna be a 3rd book actually coming out in March, I think. This is one of my favorite mystery series of all time. It is second person POV. The narrator is solving the mystery and also explaining to you how he's solving it and trying to coach you to solve it with him. They're all locked room mysteries, which is my favorite mystery trope. I am obsessed with this series. Two nonfiction options. Educated, which is a memoir, truly reads like a fiction novel. It follows the story of a woman who, when she was a young girl, she was part of a doomsdayer family. No formal childhood education, but she somehow ended up writing this book. So that should tell you a little bit about her trajectory in life. And then Everything is Tuberculosis is a nonfiction basically about how tuberculosis still exists today and the history of it, essentially how our healthcare system is failing us one day at a time. Very short, fast-paced, audiobook is phenomenal, and I don't recommend a lot of nonfiction. So you know if I'm recommending it, it's a good one. For the letter F, got a lot of F romances to recommend. 4 Weekends and a Funeral is a debut romance novel from a few years ago. I loved this romance. One of my favorite grumpy book boyfriends. It follows a woman who had recently broken up with her ex, but he passes away and didn't tell anyone, so she has to attend his funeral as like a grieving girlfriend. And then she offers to pack up his apartment, but she has to do it with his best friend, who she's never gotten along with, who's very grumpy. Man of little words. I loved it. Tension, incredible. Banter, incredible. Vibes, incredible. If you haven't read Funny Story yet by Emily Henry, this is a good place to slot it in. One of my favorites by her. Fake dating, roommates to lovers, impeccable banter. Loved, loved, loved this one. Fourth Wing, if you haven't started that series, I mean, you could do it for F. I love this romantasy series. I love dragons. If you love dragons, this should be a hit for you. It's not like a very complex world building romantasy, okay? But it's a fun time. Funny You Should Ask, another celebrity normal person romance. To be honest, I don't remember the plot of it at all, but I do know that I loved it. Or if you feel like dabbling into romantic suspense, Fragile Sanctuary is by Catherine Cowles, and it's the start of one of her most well-known series. I had a fantastic time with it. I need to get back to the series. I gave the first book 4 stars. Usually with a romantic suspense, I expect spice, pretty good romance and banter, and a mystery that's just like a fun time. This one actually bamboozled me, and I was shocked by who the culprit was, and that I did not expect to happen. So kudos to the author, and that's why I recommend it. For an actual thriller, Famous Last Words, fantastic option. This came out last year. This is by one of my favorite thriller authors. She wrote Wrong Place, Wrong Time. This follows a woman who wakes up to find out that her husband is holding people hostage. That's all I can tell you. Full of twists. Audiobook is great. Fast-paced read. I read it in one day. Or for historical fiction, I'm obviously going to recommend The Frozen River. This is a 5-star read for me. It's historical fiction meets mystery. Don't go into it thinking this is going to be like a crazy thriller by any means, but just know that it has one of the most perfect endings of all time. It follows Martha, who is a midwife in the 1700s, late 1700s, I think, in Maine. It gives Little House on the Prairie a little bit, so if you ever read those as a kid like I did, I think you'd like this one. For the letter G, I don't have any romances. If you have any recs, let me know in the comments. For a thriller / mystery, I have The God of the Woods. I would recommend saving this for the tail end of summer because it's set at the end of a summer camp for kids. Basically, a kid goes missing. It is long, okay, I'll give you that, but I could not put it down. This has mixed reviews as well, but I just like truly loved it. Ate it up. The ending is the only reason why I didn't give it 5 stars. A Good Girl's Guide to Murder, also a great option. You know I love that YA thriller series. Prey After Dark is a little bit more of like a suspense thriller. It follows a woman after she gets kidnapped on a run. And The Guest List by Lucy Foley. I actually really like that one. If you want another locked room thriller situation, this one is set on an island, I think, off the coast of Ireland. It's supposed to be a wedding. The vibes are great. The audiobook is really good too. And for another option, The Great Alone by Kristen Hanna. Obviously another really good book for winter. This book is incredible, just like everyone says. It follows a family that moves to Alaska after their father decides that he wants them to move there. I can't tell you anything else. Just go into it blind, know that it will upset you, and then put you back together, and you'll be thrilled that you read it. For the letter H, yet again, another Emily Henry book if you want. Happy Place is a polarizing one of hers. The characters are a little bit toxic, a little bit infuriating, but I really liked it. Heartless Hunter, if you've been looking to start the Crimson Moth romantasy duology, the first book is titled Heartless Hunter, at least in the US. Second book is Rebel Witch. This is a 5-star read for me. It's YA romantasy. It's enemies to lovers, one of the best enemies to lovers ever, between a witch and a witch hunter. I truly have no notes on this. This was so fast-paced. The tension, so delicious. This book lives in my head run free. Also, The Heartbreak Hotel, another good option. Very cozy romance vibes. It is set in the fall, So if you're gonna read it, save it for that. Some thrillers and mystery. How to Solve Your Own Murder. This is a cozy mystery series. This is one of 3. The 3rd book is coming out later this year. It's set in the English countryside. It's an amateur sleuth, dual timeline, pretty much everything I love in mysteries. And there's a little bit of romance, which I also always love. You could also read His and Hers by Alice Feeney. This just came out as a TV show. I think it's on Netflix. I watched the show. Pretty good. I do think you should read the book first. It's kind of fun to know the major twist because it's crazy. I remember reading the book and being like, WTF? How? And I always say you should read the book before watching the adaptation. And so now could be a good time if you need a book that starts with H. Other options include Homegoing. This is a historical fiction and it follows 2 women, basically follow their entire lineage. They were born in different villages in Ghana. One of them marries an Englishman in Ghana and the other one becomes captured to be then sold as a slave. And you do not expect the lives of their ancestors to go the way that they do. This is an intense read, but it is so good. Also, The House in the Cerulean Sea for a lighter read, if you will. Fantasy / magical realism, found family, tells a man who works for the government that inspects foster homes for magical children. That's all you need to know. I did give that book 5 stars. It was so good. And the audiobook, one of my favorite audiobooks ever. For H, 2 romances. Obviously, it's a love story. This is my favorite Annabelle Monaghan book. One of my favorite book boyfriends ever because he's grumpy but also not, but in a way that makes you still love him for his grumpiness. Amazing summer vibes. Also, the main female character is extremely relatable if you are still single in your 30s like me. So for that reason, highly recommend this book. You could also read In 5 Years, which a lot of people say is not a romance. Go into it blind and then report back and tell me if you think it's a romance. For thrillers, In My Dreams I Hold a Knife. This is a dark academia thriller and it follows a group of friends who reunite for their college reunion after not speaking to each other for a while because there was a little bit of a mishap, if you will, when they were in college. It's a whodunit locked room mystery. So good. So fast paced. And for a book that is really new, It's Not Her by Mary Kubica. I think it comes out in February. This was unputdownable, creepy lake house vibes, which I honestly think is good all year round. So you really can't go wrong with that one either. You could also start The Inheritance Games. That's like the only other one I could think of. It's a YA mystery series, YA suspense, let's say. There is a love triangle and it's a fun time. I've only read books 1 to 3, and by the 3rd book I was like kind of over it, but the first book I loved. For the letter J, I honestly had a little bit of trouble here. Couldn't think of any romances that I've read. There is a romance by Christina Lauren, who I love, called Josh and Hazel's Guide to Not Dating. I do generally love all of their books though. So that's my recommendation. If you have any others, again, leave them in the comments below. I also don't have any thriller recs, like at all. 2 other options though. James by Percival Everett, incredible book. This is a historical fiction, also retelling or reimagining of Huckleberry Finn, which I never read. And I don't think you need to read it in order to enjoy this book. I do think it can help to read like maybe a couple paragraph synopsis, but it was very good, very dark, and I do think it's a really important book for everyone to read. Obviously, racism is still an issue here. For the letter K, no romance recs for you. Apologies, there just weren't any. I don't know what to tell you. I do have 2 thriller options. A Killing Cold. This is super fast paced. Another really good book for the winter. Lots of twists. It's about a rich family with secrets, locked room mystery. You might not rate it 5 stars, but I think you'll enjoy it for the most part. And then Kill for Me, Kill for You, which is my favorite thriller of all time. I did give this 5 stars. If you hate it, don't tell me because you will hurt my feelings. This is honestly one of the twistiest thrillers I've ever read. I'm not telling you anything about it. Go into it blind and thank me later. 2 other options that are nonfiction. Know My Name by Chanel Miller is a memoir that I think every single human on this planet should read. I mean, women should obviously read it, but men could learn a lot from this book. It's written by Chanel, who was a victim of an SA. It was a very public court case. You can look up Brock Turner. This book was just incredible. It can be hard to read at times, but I honestly just think every single human should read it. Audiobook was phenomenal also. And then for a history nonfiction, Killers of the Flower Moon. Contrary to the movie, this is not a very long book. I think it was around 300 pages. It's true crime, and I honestly really enjoyed it. I learned so much. It's about the Osage Nation. I'm 90% sure that's how you pronounce it, and basically the birth of the FBI. It's a fascinating read, and if you haven't watched the movie, I think it's a really good opportunity to read the book first. All right, we've got a lot of options for the letter L. Love Theoretically is my favorite Ali Hazelwood book, so obviously I'm going to recommend it. Another incredibly perfect grumpy book boyfriend. So much yearning and tension, banter. I literally loved this book so much. Last Christmas in Paris is a mix of romance and historical fiction, and contrary to the title, you don't have to read it during Christmas because it takes place over 5 years. It's an epistolary novel, so written all in letters like The Correspondent. If you enjoyed that book, I do think you'd probably like this one. It's set during World War I, and it made me cry multiple times, so yeah, I highly recommend it. Honestly, so many other romances. Left to Forever by Tara DeWitt is a second chance romance. Phenomenal. Love in Other Words is one of my favorite Christina Lauren books. That one is Friends to Lovers. The Love Hypothesis by Ellie Hazelwood. Not one of my favorites of hers, but it is a lot of people's favorite, and the adaptation is coming out this year, so I definitely think you should read that before you see the movie. I think it's going to be a movie. The Love of My Afterlife is such a good rom-com with magical realism. I can't tell you any of the plot, but it's honestly so good. And then for thrillers, my number one rec is Local Woman Missing by Mary Kubica. I mean, I just love her writing so much, but this I think is my favorite of hers. I just did not see all of the twists that came at the end coming. Fast-paced, audiobook is really good, and it takes place in a small town where people have been going missing over a few years, and one of them returns, and so the entire town is coming together to try to figure out what the hell happened. And then two other thrillers that I liked. Listen for the Lie is one of them. This one is also really good on audio because it follows a woman who the entire town has accused of murdering her friend, and she goes on a podcast to try to clear her name. And then Like Mother, Like Daughter, which I actually did find to be really fast-paced. I read that one in a day, and it follows a girl who comes home to find her mother has gone missing. I really liked the focus on the mother-daughter relationship. Couple options for the letter M. No romances yet again. I don't know how I keep doing that. I feel like I should have more romance recs than this, but I don't. For a mystery, I would suggest Murder on the Orient Express. It's a classic, and I feel like people are trying to get more classics in, so why not try an Agatha Christie? It's a locked room mystery, also a really good winter book because it's set on a train that gets stuck in a snowstorm and somebody gets murdered, naturally. And then two other books, Mad Honey, which is by Jodi Picoult, and I forget the other author's name. This book follows the story of a young girl who dies and her boyfriend is accused of it. And so you also follow the full court case, and it's told a lot from the perspective of the boy's mother, basically trying to fight for him. Another option is The Midnight Library. If you haven't read this yet, it is a very short read, very much focused on the classic question of if you could do something over in your life, would you? This is another polarizing book, and I truly don't really know why, because I thought it was honestly fantastic. There's magical realism in it, and there's a little bit of romance, which, let's say it all with me now, I always love. For the letter N, two romances. Nora Goes Off Script. This is Annabelle Monaghan's first adult romance. I think she wrote books before her adult books. This is a celebrity normal person romance. It follows a single mother and an actor. The flow of this book is very unique for a romance and very well done. Also under 300 pages, so it's a short read. And I do think you can read this one year round. This one is the least summary of her books. Also The No-Show, which follows three women who are dating a man that stands them up. I can't tell you anything else about it. It's a very unique romance, but you will end up liking how it ends, I think. None of This Is True is another thriller that is great on audio because it follows a relatively well-known podcaster who meets her birthday twin and then invites her birthday twin onto her podcast, and that's all I can tell you, and things get a little bit creepy, and this was a fantastic thriller. And then for two other options, obviously The Nightingale by Kristen Hanna. If you haven't read this yet, definitely a good pick for the letter N. It's a World War II historical fiction. It follows two sisters living vastly different lives during World War II. It's fantastic. It will make you sob. Also The Names also has a potential to make you sob. I love this book. This is a debut novel. It came out last year. It is essentially following a mother who is picking between three different names to name her newborn son, and you follow the lives of the entire family as if she had named her son those three different options. So it's three different alternating timelines. I love the setup of it. I do think this has to be a book that you read within a short time frame because otherwise the timelines do get confusing. All right, we've got some good ones for the letter O. One of my favorite romances of all time, another Taylor Jenkins read rec, is One True Loves. This is another book that I do think you need to go into blind. I just think this romance is so validating for anyone that's ever questioned their life choices in love specifically. Honestly, I think that's all I can say about it. But I do think if you like her writing, this is a must read. No thrillers yet again. Apologies. I do have The Other Side of Now, which is magical realism with a little bit of romance. It's set in the Irish countryside. It follows a woman who is a soap opera actress, I think. think, in LA, and she wants to go visit the town that she originally wanted to study acting in. So she goes there and she finds out that everyone there knows a different version of her. So this is another alternate timeline rec, and magical realism in the form of alternate timelines is one of my favorites, and this also has one of the best endings I think I've ever read in a book. Also, One Good Thing by Georgia Hunter. This is a historical fiction. It's set in Italy during World War II. It's kind of road trippy in a sense that you're following a woman basically trying to keep herself safe by continuing to move further and further into Italy. You will get attached to so many characters in this. You will probably cry. I cried, but it's so good. And again, there's a romance, which always makes it better, in my opinion. P is another good one. One of my favorite romances. Yes, I Hate You. Again, another one of my top tier grumpy book boyfriends. This follows Maddie, whose brother recently passes away, and his last dying wish was for her and his best friend to go all across the US and spread his ashes. The problem is that they have some history and they haven't really been getting along. So there's a lot of tension, a lot of underlying issues. It's so good. And I love a road trip romance, and this one is so well done. A couple other romances. If you haven't started Abby Jimenez's Part of Your World series, the first book is titled Part of Your World. It is her best series, in my opinion. And Yours Truly is my favorite book by her, and you have to read Part of Your World first. It's an age gap romance. Definitely golden retriever book boyfriend. Small town vibes. There's honestly not much to not like about it. Two thrillers. Pretty Little Wife, which, if I'm being honest, I don't remember the plot at all, but I rated it pretty high. I gave it 4 stars. If I remember correctly, it is very creepy, but very good. But also Pines. So if you've been thinking about starting this series, short, sci-fi, horror, thriller, definitely gory, crazy, dystopian, stressful, but it was so good. Also kind of adjacent is Play Nice by Rachel Harrison. This is a horror. There's a little bit of romance. It's centered around a haunted house. I do recommend going into her books blind, but it's creepy, and it was a fantastic time for me personally. Couldn't go to sleep after I read it, but I still loved it. Also, if you haven't read Project Hail Mary yet, read that now before the movie comes out, because you absolutely should read the book first. Definitely recommend the audio, just like everyone says. It will be even more of an experience. But I physically read it because I didn't know that, and I still enjoyed it. It is easier to skip a lot of the science speak if you're reading it physically, I will just say. And you don't need to read all of it in order to get the most out of this book. Now, I can't lie to you, Q was tough. I did get one romantasy, and that is Quicksilver. I loved it. It is a snack for your brain, okay? Like, this doesn't take a lot to understand what is going on. It's a little bit fluffy. It's fae and vampire. It is long, but it goes by fast. I just had a really good time with it. I gave it 4.5 stars. For a thriller, I haven't read it, but The Quiet Tenant I know is a beloved thriller, and I also think it's being adapted into a TV show. So again, read the book before the adaptation. So maybe I should read it. Okay, we've got some really good ones for the letter R. The Rom-Commers by Catherine Center is my favorite book by her. Another one of my favorite grumpy book boyfriends. But it's so good. It's about 2 screenplay writers. Emma is more of a novice, but she gets hired to help Charlie write a romance screenplay because he's never written one, and he agreed to do one. I think it's set in LA. She goes there to teach him the ropes. It's so good, and also short. And who doesn't love a short book? For a thriller, you could try the reappearance of Rachel Price. This is a YA thriller. Same author of A Good Girl's Guide to Murder. Truly cannot go wrong with Holly Jackson. Like, her writing is so good. It hits for me every time. This one had a little bit of a slow start, but the second half, so fast-paced. It's over 400 pages, and I read it in one day, okay? It was so good. 2 other options, Remarkably Bright Creatures. Obviously, another book where if you haven't read it, the adaptation is coming out this year, and this is one of the most wholesome books ever. I loved the audiobook so much. I don't know how to explain the plot to you, and I don't think that I should, because I think I would butcher it. And I think you can go into it blind, and you need to go into it knowing that the plot doesn't make sense for like the first half of the book. The Rachel Incident is another book that I loved. I'm gonna be honest, I don't remember the plot of this one at all. This one is more contemporary fiction, and it's kind of about friend soulmates, I would say, and it's set in Ireland for the most part. There is romance in it. The characters are a little bit frustrating, a little bit toxic in a way, but it was a good read. For the S's, we have quite a few options. Savor It by Tara DeWitt. So if you want to read Left to Forever, Savor It actually comes first. I do recommend reading in order. Savor It was a really good one. It's definitely a little bit more cheesy than Left to Forever in my opinion, and it's more like boy next door, single parent in a sense. It was very good though, and I do do think the audiobook was phenomenal. Say You'll Remember Me by Abby Jimenez, a fantastic book. This is one of the only insta-love romances that I will ever give more than 3.5 stars. I gave it 4.5 stars. I really loved it. It also focuses a lot on caregiving for people in your family that have dementia or Alzheimer's, which I think is really important and really sad, honestly. This is a sad book, but I really loved it. The 7 Year Slip by Ashley Poston is a well-loved romance for a reason. It's very cozy. It's set in New York City. I believe during the summer. There's a magical apartment of sorts and it's dual timeline, and that's all you need to know. Very cute romance. And also The Serpent and the Wings of the Night, which is one of my favorite romanticises. I only read the first book of the series so far, but I would like to keep reading it. It is a vampire romantasy, which I always eat up. First book has trials, which I also always eat up. I honestly had a really good time with this book. For thrillers, I only have one rec, and that's She's Not Sorry. Another Mary Kubica rec. Her books always just have a really good twist or two. This one, actually, the twist pissed me off, but it was still good. It still got me. It follows a woman who's a nurse, and she comes into work one day, and a woman is there who tried to unalive herself, and that's kind of the setup of the book. Like with all thrillers, I don't really want to tell you anything else. It's a good one though, and it's fast-paced. For some other options, if you've been thinking about starting Six of Crows, look no further. I love this duology so much. The found family in this is perfection. It's a YA fantasy surrounding a heist in the first book, and the second book is focused a little bit more on revenge. The first few chapters, you don't really know what's going on. If you have read Crescent City though, you can do this, okay? That's all I'll say. The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo, also fantastic TJR book. If you are somebody that likes celebrity gossip, I think that this one will be really good. It kind of feels like a celebrity tell-all. The audiobook is amazing. So Thirsty by Rachel Harrison. Also Such Sharp Teeth by Rachel Harrison. This one I like a little bit more. This one is about vampires though. Such Sharp Teeth is about werewolves. So depending on what you like, pick one or the other or read both. Why not? I love her books so much. They're all horrors. They're all fast-paced. There's always a little bit of romance. I have no complaints about them. I don't know what to tell you. And also, if you've been thinking about reading Sandwich, which I do recommend reading in the summer, also a great book that starts with S. As long as you're prepared for it to be East Coast humor, I think you'll like it. For the letter T, I don't have any true romance, surprisingly, probably because I outlawed anything that starts with the word the. I do have Twice by Mitch Albom, which is short. It's another book that kind of answers the question of if you could redo things in your life, would you? But it's very much centered around romance. I loved this book so much. And also, if you've been thinking about starting Throne of Glass and you want to read it in the order that I read it in and enjoyed, you can start with Throne of Glass, and that starts with the letter T. And then don't blame me if you get sucked into the world and that takes up your entire year. Couple thrillers and mysteries, but we obviously have to start with the Thursday Murder Club. If you haven't read this series yet, where have you been? Do me a favor, if you have read this book and you're iffy about continuing, just read the second book and then decide, because they get better and better. So cozy, so wholesome. It follows a group of retirees basically solving mysteries. You get to know the characters more and more as the books go on, so it becomes less confusing and less detail heavy and more focused on just their dynamics and other side characters. I just love the series so much, and I just want everyone to read it. Also, The Thrashers, a fantastic YA thriller. It follows a group of kids in high school. One of their friends, Ish, had unalived herself and blamed the friend group, so they're kind of having to deal with that in the new school year. Honestly, very creepy, but I loved it. And then two other options. These Summer Storms, another rich family, not really mystery, but there's a little bit of mystery involved. There's also a romance. It's set on an island. You get to know all the different characters in the family, which is really fun. This to me gives Succession vibes to a T, so if you love that show, I do think you'd really like this book. And then there's also Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow. This book centers around friends that start a video game company together, and it follows their lives over a lot of years and a lot of trials and tribulations. And you go in and out with liking different characters more than the other, which I honestly think is kudos to the author, because I feel like that doesn't often happen. I really loved this book, but it did make me cry. And I still to this day don't know if it was necessary, but it's a fantastic read. Now here's where things get a little bit sad with my recommendations. There's still some good ones in here. So for the letter U, The Unhoneymooners by Christina Lauren. This is one of my favorite books by them. So funny. Another book that's full of romance tropes. It follows a woman whose sister was supposed to get married and then go on a honeymoon, but then there was this whole food poisoning fiasco. So her and the best man, who she doesn't get along with, go on the honeymoon together. Chaos ensues. You know, it's enemies-ish to lovers. I loved this book so much. No thriller in this category, but The Unmaking of June Farrow is a little bit mystery, a little bit historical fiction, a little bit of romance, a little bit magical realism, everything I could like in a book. I'm not telling you anything else about it. You do need to go into it pretty much completely blind. It's right around 300 pages. I read it in one day. I don't know why, but it does give me summer vibes, so maybe save it for the summer. 2 books for the letter V. The Very Secret Society of Irregular Witches, which is definitely a fall read, so save it if you plan on reading this. Magical realism, obviously around witches. There's found family vibes. There is romance in it as well. So cozy. Audiobook is phenomenal. And then for a mystery, I would recommend Vera Wong's Unsolicited Advice for Murderers. If you've read this one, you can read the second book because it also starts with her name. This follows a meddling, I think she's 60 years old. And then this book, somebody dies in her tea shop and she basically tries to figure out what happened, meddling with a bunch of different people in her son's life and I think customers. It's so good. You underestimate her so much and the audiobook is incredible. Do not read this with your eyes. Read it with your ears. I am telling you. For the letter W, 3 romances. What Happens in Amsterdam is obviously set in Amsterdam. This is such a good second chance romance. The spice in this one was honestly incredible. I was not prepared for how good that was going to be. And if you've ever been to Amsterdam or if you're going to Amsterdam, this is so magical to read while you're there. I had such a good time doing that and I 10 out of 10 recommend. Also Winter in New York, which is kind of marketed as a holiday book, but it is set from September through December. Another romance where I don't know how to explain the plot at all, but it is strangers to lovers in a sense, and it's a single father situation. The main male character is honestly kind of like a perfect man. The main female character has some flaws, but to me they were kind of understandable. I went along with it. The book made me cry and I really loved it. Some fantastic thriller mystery options. We're All Guilty Here by Karen Slaughter, one of my favorite thrillers from last year. My first Karen Slaughter book. It follows a detective who is investigating a missing persons case in her hometown. Even just the structure of this book is a plot twist, so I can't tell you anything else, but it was fantastic. I honestly thought it was unputdownable. And I had a guess on the twist early on, but then the author did an incredible job of kind of getting me away from it, which is my preferred way for a thriller to be written. I want to have an inkling, but I want to doubt my inkling. And this honestly did it. Also, if you haven't read Wild Dark Shore yet, get to it. Short, fast-paced, very atmospheric, eerie read. I really think it's a good winter book. The beginning is a tiny bit slow. Just give it a chance. It is worth the read. You just might be pissed off at the end. I was very pissed off. I'm still upset about it. I can't lie. Also, Wrong Place, Wrong Time. This is the same author of Famous Last Words. This is such a unique thriller and very twisty, and I didn't guess the way that it ended. It follows a woman whose son commits a murder and then she wakes up to the day before. It's a wild concept. It was so good. A couple other options. The Wedding People is a good one. This is another book that I would say save towards the end of the summer. You should go into it blind, but look up trigger warnings. And then The Women by Kristen Hanna, my favorite Kristen Hanna book. This is set during the Vietnam War and it specifically follows women that served in the Vietnam War. This book made me cry so much. This is another one of my favorite endings ever. I still think about it on a regular basis. For the letter X, I have not read anything where X is like the main focal point of the title. I didn't want to pick books that just had an X in the words because that felt kind of like cheating. So I have 2 that I have not read. XOXO is a YA romance. It's a forbidden romance and it's set in the K-pop world. Orphan X is a thriller that follows a man who was essentially raised as a spy because he was an orphan and he was like put into some sort of intelligence program. It sounds pretty good. It has over a 4-star rating on Goodreads with over 50,000 reviews. So I feel like that is a good option. For the letter Y, only one book that I read, and that is You with a View, but I absolutely loved it. This is one of my favorite romances, and it's another road trip romance. It's between high school rivals, and they go on a road trip with the guy's grandpa, which is a whole other part of the story. But he's such a cute, wholesome grandpa character. I loved this book so much. I thought the spice and the banter was perfection. And then for another option is Yellow Face, which I have not read, and I think that this is maybe mystery-ish, maybe like chaotic main female character energy similar to Best Offer Wins. I don't know anything about it, but I know that people love it. And I honestly do need to read this book. All right, last letter before my voice completely gives out is the letter Z. I have not read a single book with the letter Z as a main focus, treating it similar to the letter X where it doesn't have to start with the letter Z. So one romance option is Below Zero, which is a novella by Ali Hazelwood. It's part of a collection of novellas. I do need to read it, and if I know anything about Ali Hazelwood, it's that I will probably love it. And if you like STEM romances, I'm kind of feeling like, why wouldn't you want to read this one? For a thriller, 0 Days by Ruth Ware. thriller. I don't know anything about this thriller, I'm gonna be honest, other than that it starts with a Z. And Ruth Ware I feel like is an objectively good thriller author. You might not always love them, but they're gonna have some good twists. They're gonna keep you entertained. I don't think it would be a book that you'd regret reading it. And I feel like that's all we can ask for from these letter book recs, okay? Like there's really just not very many out there. One other option is The Zookeeper's Wife, which I believe was made into a movie. It's a World War II historical fiction set in Poland. So I'm assuming that if you want to cry, you should pick this book up. Again, don't know much about it. I don't really know anyone that's read it. If you have any Z letter book recs, please let me know in the comments. I'm honestly curious at this point. I didn't want to recommend the Zodiac Academy because that's an entire commitment and I haven't read it, and I don't know that I would recommend it to everyone, but that is another option. Honestly, I think I was just talking for like a straight hour and a half. If you hung around this long, I'm honestly honored. If I've missed any crucial recommendations for any of these letters, let me know in the comments below. Let me also know if you're doing the A to Z book challenge or if you're doing a different TBR challenge. I also want to know. Honestly, that's all. As always, thanks for hanging and I hope to see you next time.